Attractive teachers of Reddit. Did you know which students had a crush on you? And what is the strangest or most inappropriate thing you overheard said about you? French teacher here. Teenagers are just constantly inappropriate and need very little encouragement. I got asked to prom. Had boys tell other teachers that they thought I was hot. Had a parent accusingly tell me that she now understood why her son loved French, which I took to mean that my innovative skill set had inspired. I didn't mind though. It meant that I had a class with 12 previously disengaged 16-year-old boys come back for extra homework and revision classes every lunchtime and after school, and every one of those bags of hormones passed. When I was in junior high, there was a guy who I honestly couldn't tell where he stood in the popularity hierarchy, but he always thought he was hot crap. Well, we got an influx of 26-year-old female teachers which he, for the most part, hit on, which he was flatly denied. He didn't take no for an answer and proceeded to sexually harass and then assault 2 of the teachers. Not sure what he said, but he grabbed one's butt and tried to dry hump the other. That's fricked. Not really attractive at all and didn't notice a thing till I asked, in a college lab, are there any questions? And this one guy, older student, about my age, raised his hand and said in front of the whole class, "Yeah, will you go out with me?" So that was kind of a clue. I teach 7th grade, so I had a boy come back from the book fair with a freshly purchased set of bouncy balls. He proudly held them out and asked if I wanted to touch his balls. Another time I had a 7th grade boy get down on one knee and ask me to the Valentine's dance while handing me a note. He had taped a Nestle Crunch bar to the note. Young male middle school teacher here. I know quite a few of them who have a crush on me. There's a new fad where they tell each other secrets and say, "Oh, exposed." Since when did snitching become popular? Anyway, I always get told who has a crush on me, and quite often some of the girls will drop by to leave their athletic bags or instruments, etc., in the classroom, and they bring their friends in with them. When they leave, I always hear comments like, "I wish I had him as my teacher." My top 3 worst incidents. 1. I had a girl come in at lunch. She told me, "Mister, I like you." Knowing full well what she meant, I tried to play it off and said as nonchalant as I could, "I like you too. You're a great student." She was like, "No, I mean I really like you." I couldn't believe the tenacity. 2. Another student asked me to take a picture with her towards the end of the school year. I obliged, and on the last day she printed it out and gave it to me with her Instagram on the back and a message about how cute I was. 3. A girl found my Facebook and saved my profile picture as the background to her phone. I deleted my Facebook promptly afterward. If only I could get that kind of attention from girls my own age. Every time I have a crush on someone, I'm gonna make them my phone background from now on. I had one of my high-functioning autistic students tell me straight up that all the moms call me handsome Lars the elephant. Insert my last name that begins with an H. Keep in mind this was in the middle of a lesson on the French Revolution, and I had asked a question about the bourgeoisie. He raised his hand and came out with that gem. Good on you, handsome Henderson. I'm probably too late on this, but a year 10 boy got suspended for taking and sending Snapchat photos of my butt whenever I was helping a student in front of him. It was another boy who showed me and said he wasn't happy with me being disrespected, which was nice. One of my teachers back in high school had this happen to her, except she noticed on her own, if I recall correctly, because the kid forgot to turn flash off on his phone when he snapped the photo. Oh lord, before my breast reduction I was a timid tay with 34H boobs at a high school. Surprisingly, it was girls I heard most of the comments from. Guys mostly just stared. Anyway, the worst, and certainly weirdest, was when I was watching over a homeroom and pretended not to hear a group of girls talk about a rumor that I had let several male students tit fuck me one after another. And because my boobs were so big, I guess the CM pulled up in my cleavage, and in the end I sucked it all out with a straw. Yeah, more than anything I was amused by how they thought tit fucking worked. I have substituted and tutored kids at the high school where my mom teaches. There was a girl that started referring to her as her mother-in-law. That got pretty weird. Among several personal questions was, do you have a girlfriend? And once a student called me honey. It's especially a key because they're just 8th graders. I'm not a fan of honey unless they're in their 60s. Finally, An AskReddit question I can answer. I'm not much to look at now, but in the mid-90s I was a much handsomer fellow. I was working at a Catholic high school at the height of my best hairstyle and my size 28 waist. Those are both gone now. The first day I started, a group of giggling teenage girls were huddled and whispering and looking at me. One of them worked up the guts to come over to me and say, "Hello, sir. One question please. Just. She was blushing. Are you married?" So yeah, a bunch of 16-year-old girls were hoping I was single. What they thought they'd do if I was, I'm not sure, but they were crushing. One day I'm walking down a long hallway at the school and was vaguely aware of a group of girls behind me whispering. I didn't realize they were focused on me until I heard one say, "Look at his butt." I stopped without turning around, and they burst into loud embarrassed laughter and then scattered like cockroaches when the light turns on. Now, in 2017, I look like the poster from About Schmidt, but I had my day once upon a time. Then scattered like cockroaches when the light turns on. Beautiful. On my first day as a middle school intern, one of my students told his friends, "Miss Turnoff, the century is mine." I walked behind his seat right as he said it and he just about died from embarrassment when he figured out that I heard him. One of my high school students told me that my intelligence was sexy. That was one of those moments where you look for another adult who can verify, for any potential future record, that you weren't just creeping on that particular student. That must have wrecked your dating life afterwards. I mean, the kid called dibs. I'm a student teacher and was asked if I was an 8th grader by a student in my first week teaching, which doesn't make me attractive, but it does make me seem more age appropriate for my middle schoolers. I work with kids with special needs and I knew that one of the boys, nonverbal, had hit puberty when he came over to me and gently kissed my forearm and then made his happy noise. It's kinda like a zishha, which led to a new rule that we don't kiss teachers. It was kinda cute though. He's not one for affection in general. He came over to me and gently kissed my forearm and then made his happy noise. It's kinda like a zishha. LOL. This made me laugh so hard. Very cute. Kids or young adults thinking that an older authority figure is attractive is fairly normal and common, but it can get creepy if it gets too close. I had a young teenage boy get a little too informal familiar with me when emailing me over time, as students can do if they need to. He ended up sending me a picture of an anime character who had the same hair color as me, wearing a small bikini. He commented that he liked the show series she was from because he thought I looked a lot like her. Brakes gotta be slammed right there. Teaching English as a second language. Had a 14-year-old girl say, "I want to eat you." I jokingly asked with a laugh, "You want to eat me?" She stared me dead in the eye and said yes. Awkward. I think you've discovered a cannibal. I'm a primary school teacher. The girls will just come and find reasons to be close to you. Stand next to you and lean into you. Try to lock arms, hug you, etc. They'll say that they really like you. They try to touch my beard too. I go to the gym a lot and I'm starting to get decent looking body. They ask me to show them my muscles or if I have a six-pack, etc. That can get pretty weird. One time a girl brought in a plastic rose for me on Valentine's Day. That was the sweetest one and I've actually still kept that. Funnily enough, it's the only thing I've ever received on Valentine's Day. I'm not a teacher, and I may be too late to the party for this. But when I was in high school there was one particular male coach who got lots of female attention. Girls would come by his classes just to say hello. They'd stop and hug him in the hallway. Sometimes get in trouble just to get put in detention because he oversaw that for a while. Just being around witnessing this crap was crazy to me because I had never, and still to this day have never again, seen girls just throwing themselves at a guy and fawning all over him. It was like this coach was a goddamn rock star. Later when I was in college I learned that he went to jail for banging like all of them. In the 70s, there was a very good looking male teacher who also coached football at my school. The guy had blonde hair, a cleft chin, and was in pretty great shape. I'm guessing he was mid-30s. He used to sit all the pretty girls in the front of the class. He actually married a student right after she graduated. A few years later, she divorced him as she caught him with a current student. I'm not bad and frequently the youngest female teacher my students have ever had. I teach middle school, so 13, 15 or 16. It's funny, the boys that actually have a crush are super obvious about it but they just act embarrassed and think they're hiding it well. LOL no. The most inappropriate comments I've gotten to my face are, come to a love hotel with me, Japan, love hotel equals pay by the hour, what position do you like, and just a straightforward, have sex with me, all of those several times in both English and Japanese. Shut those down real quick. Overheard comments, mostly they just talk about my boobs lol. Ugh. I remember the hormones were raging in guys and girls at those ages. I'm happy that I can think more clearly now that I am older. But yes, good that you shut that talk down. I'm not a teacher, but my friend is. He teaches special ed math. One day after class, he found a note left on the floor. It was written by an 8th grade girl he taught, and it read, my math teacher is hot, and he has a big butt. Double bonus. Guess she likes big butts and she cannot lie. Former English teacher here. When I was student teaching, I carpooled with another guy, a Spanish student teacher. We both went on to graduate and taught for a while before both leaving the profession for different reasons. But I remember kids talking about him. Don't get me wrong. He was a good looking guy, but when we co-taught a class, we introduced ourselves to the 7th grade English class. It was my class first. Spanish was next period. It quickly got out of hand. I'm Mr. Bookworm 5000. This is Mr. Spanish teacher. We are from local college of college staff and will be here for the next few months as your student teachers. The cooperating teacher was just watching from the back. I like video games, books, movies, and cooking. My buddy said some stuff about himself. Do you guys have any questions for us? All the boys raised their hands to ask what my favorite video game was. All the girls raised their hands to ask him. 1. Does he have a girlfriend? 2. How many push-ups he can do? 3. How do you grow your beard to look so nice? At this point, the cooperating teacher stepped in. Spanish boy and I had a beer after school and freaking laughed a lot. I had a hot English 101 teacher. She was obsessed with Van Halen. One day she was going to give out extra credit if someone could guess her favorite song of theirs. I didn't think of hot for teacher until after class. No one did. I think about it all the time. That's literally the only Van Halen song I know, and seeing as she's a teacher, dude, it was obvious. I was not attractive, but freshman girls still crushed on me when I taught at uni as a grad student. I would have thought they were just flirting for grades, but they were always the nerdy hot type that already earned good grades. One called me doctor, told her I didn't have a PhD, called me prof. I told her I was just an instructor. She asked if she could call me professor anyhow. Then she asked if I'd like to get a drink. Told her to ask again when the class was over if she was serious. She was. She called me professor. It was a really great score for a guy who looks like a catcher's mitt. Hot nerdy girls are the best. I have a fresh out of college gym teacher who every girl at my school is nuts over. They are not sly about it either. Pretty much knows that he gets all the girls' panties wet. The girls pretty much tell their other teachers I would be the ham in that manned sandwich. Nobody really cares. I wouldn't say I'm attractive, but being a TA in college, a lot of girls get flirty for favorable grades. Some try harder than others. Then during office hours right before the final, girls will be coming in with push-up bras and tiny shorts like that's going to work. Once I subbed for my buddy's high school class and one of the girls sat front row center giving me the frick me eyes the entire hour. It was a little uncomfortable. The most inappropriate thing I've overheard said about me wasn't sexual, but rather about my military experience, just spreading untrue rumors. I used to teach high school math in New York, and a good college friend of mine taught high school chemistry in Florida for a couple of years. He's a pretty good looking dude. We used to swap stories, but he has one much better than all of mine. One Valentine's Day after school was over, he returned to his science classroom to find a card on his desk. On the inside was written, "I want to periodically bang you on this table." Also there was a small bag of CE inside the card. Naturally he chopped it up on his desk and did the whole bag. Just kidding, he went straight to the principal's office and gave him everything. The principal did it all afterwards. Okay, 2 stories. One of my friends who is a bit awkward would always say I love you to an attractive teacher, typically once or twice a week. At first she would react to it by saying things like what, why, stop it. Then her reactions became a bit less noticeable, and during the last week of school she said it back and his face lit up like you wouldn't believe. 2. A male student 18 and female teacher 22 met in school and later got married, so that was a thing. Your teacher from 1 probably wanted to give your friend a good memory before leaving. So not me, because I A, am not attractive, and B, teach in an elementary school, but I have watched students do so throughout my high school and college career. I've witnessed this. The worst was in college with my theory teacher. He was 29 and a couple of the other girls had huge crushes on him. Sometimes staff would attend the parties and one girl in particular would sit on his lap and flirt shamelessly. To be fair, I think they actually dated secretly for a bit. I mean, he let her sit in his lap. Sue was a student with a very attractive teacher. She was maybe 25 or so when I was a freshman, and all of the guys talked about her constantly. She always kept the door to her classroom locked during lunch, and one day me and 2 other kids were waiting outside for her to unlock the door. I was waiting there because I was lame, but the other 2 kids were friends who were talking about her. Okay, so this conversation took place like 10 years ago, but here is about how it went. God, Miss Blank is so freaking hot. I know, right? No, seriously. I know, man. No, but seriously, if she was here right now I'd bend her over. And he then proceeded to mime spanking her by literally spanking the door while we stood there. I guess like any kid who doesn't understand sex might be prone to do. I was maybe 3 feet away and not really sure whether to smile and play along or be horrified. And as he spanks the door a 4th or 5th time, Miss Blank actually opens the door from the inside. She looked at all 3 of us and said, "You boys need to learn not to talk so loud." And then we just went in and sat down. All in all, not a bad outcome actually, but I still wonder what was really going through her mind. Not crush related, but when I was a senior in college, taking a 400 level Poli-C course, our nerdy hot professor uploaded an enormous amount of nudes to our class's online portal. That was an interesting hour and 45 minutes the next time we had class. After school teacher, not attractive, just average, had a kindergarten boy come up to me and go, "You're so cute. Poka 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 poke," as he rapidly poked my stomach fat. That's how they mark their territory. Finally, something I can answer. I teach junior and senior high school as a substitute teacher. I graduated a year ago, so haven't landed a full-time position yet. I've had multiple grade 10 students write inappropriate comments on my formal evaluations given out during the last day of my final student teaching practicum. These included, "I want to have sex with Ms. Teacup-Grid. Miss Teacup-Grid is hot, sexy, cute. I want to frick you." All caps for extra emphasis. During my first student teaching practicum, I had a grade 9 student, who was a good foot taller than me, block me from leaving the doorway when he asked for a hug. I had another grade 9 student slap my butt. I was so surprised I honestly didn't know how to handle it. Teaching is fun. I'm a tall, lean beanpole of a teacher, but students seem to think I'm sleeping with another teacher. I'm not. I actually hate her. As rumors go, it's better than a student. A student raised his hand while we were going over homework in class and said, "Miss, I have a question." I said, "Let's hear it." He pulled out a boombox from under his desk, pressed play and stood up on the desk. Just as he did, Backstreet Boys' "All I Have to Give" came on, and with his arms outstretched he asked, "Will you go to prom with me?" I turned so red I had to walk out of the room. It's pretty obvious when a student has a crush on you. If they're not doing something like this, they are blushing and struggling to get a sentence out when you're working with them in class. I was a building sub for a high school last year. There's one girl in particular that springs to mind. She would find out where I was subbing for the day and drop by a couple of times. One day, after passing her in the hallway and saying good morning, I very loudly heard, "My God, he's so fine." Ignored it and kept on my way. Another time, she came to talk to me in between classes and I told her to get going before she was late. She walked to the door, stopped and said, "By the way, Mr. Chocolatefizz, no homo, but you have a nice butt," and walked away. Definitely made sure to keep my distance after that. Wife is an attractive teacher. She can definitely tell which students have a crush on her. High schoolers are not subtle. She was asked to be a +1 to somebody's wedding once. Then the student reminded her the law was after 90 days post graduation they could date. Also, when the guys find out she's married, they ask only the polite questions and give non-committal "that's nice" responses to the answers. The student reminded her the law was after 90 days post graduation they could date. The kid did his research. I graduated high school almost 4 years ago and had a crush on some of the ugliest I can tell you. It has nothing to do with attractiveness. It's their place of authority. I still think that teachers I thought were hot are hot. Not me, but my friend got so embarrassed. Basically, our English teacher is an absolute babe and she was walking towards us on the way to class, and I say to my friend really loudly, "Hey X, what do you think of Y?" And he goes, "Oh my gosh, she's an absolute babe. She's practically perfect. I would love to be her fiance," and I pee myself laughing, and when he turned around he sees her and goes blood red. Man, I'm near certain he made the cross with his head, 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 the cross. I mean, at least he didn't say how much he wanted to frick her or anything. That's pretty complimentary if you ask me. He wasn't disrespectful or anything. As far as middle school high school compliments can go when talking about a hot girl, that is. Had the 7th grade English teacher working in my middle school. She was young, like 22, going to spring break parties type of young. Well, one day some kid was distracted during class. Apparently, from what he and other guys said, was that she didn't bring a bra to school. Though that one kid was mostly distracted looking at her breasts than paying attention. Later on during the lecture she went over there to talk to him and he just kept staring while she talked. He ended up getting relocated to another school. That's entrapment. My sister is an attractive and overly nice 24-year-old teacher, grade 7, so it definitely happens a lot. Last semester she started noticing stuff going missing from her desk, like her sports bra from her gym bag, but thought it must just be her carelessness. About a week later, her boyfriend, also a teacher, noticed her light was on and went to go check. He found one of her students, belt unbuckled, standing in front of her pair of heels that he rooted through her desk drawer to find. Now, if that wasn't creepy enough, you have to know her feet stank. Like I lived her for 18 years. It was like mayonnaise and tuna broiling out in the summer sun. Still don't understand that kind of desperation. Puberty is a heck of a time. Not a teacher yet, but we had a student teacher in our high school band that definitely had the interest of lots of the girls. Then again, I probably would have gone gay for him too. Yes, it's pretty easy to tell, lol. Not the strangest, but the most upsetting comment I've heard was she ain't that good a kisser. I was friends with a girl in middle school who had a crush on our 7th grade health ed teacher. She TA'd for him the next year and told us that she spat in his coffee every day because it was like she was kissing him. I don't think anyone ever told him. Well, I'm not attractive, or a teacher, or even a student anymore. I went to high school in the 80s. In my junior year, about 1985, I had study hall in the afternoon. It was in the school cafeteria, and we were assigned seats, which were lunch booths. I sat in a booth with 2 other guys. I was pretty nerdy, so was the other kid whom I was friendly with. He went on to get a doctorate in physics, and there were a couple of cute girls behind us. This was the study hall where I came up with the song "Calculator in My Pocket Makes Me Frisky" that I serenaded to them. But this is not that story. Anyhow, the other guy of the 3 of us had a crush on the teacher monitor assigned to the class. She was pretty young, probably about 24-25 years old. He used to stare at her and talk about how hot she was, like not quiet, so that only us 2 could hear, but fairly loud so that she could hear. And he used to like to go up and talk to her whenever he could. One day he started making jokes about how it must be really cold today. Not knowing what he was talking about, I asked him, and he said, loud enough, that her nipples were erect, and kept on talking about how hot she was, and about her nipples. I was a fairly obnoxious nerd, but he started really creeping me out. Soon after, he was no longer in that study hall with us. I ended up running into him years later, like around 1998. Not sure how he recognized me. but I was picking up some Chinese food and so was he. Found out after high school he joined a seminary and was becoming a priest or reverend or some other religious pursuit. Go figure. Sounds like a great candidate for celibacy. I'm an attractive female high school teacher and OMG do I ever hear stuff said about me. They don't seem to realize how much their voices carry. The one that amused me the most just seemed to not make sense. The boys were waiting for the bell to ring and I was at my desk using my computer. Students assume when you are using a computer you are sucked into some kind of vortex where your ears don't work. They were talking about how hot I was and one kid said, "Yeah, I'd love to cover her in chocolate sauce and rage frick her." I had so much trouble not laughing. Cover her in chocolate sauce and rage frick her. I died LMAO. As a college prof, I try not to know. Unfortunately, I have blocked out any really inappropriate comments. But I do have 2 stories for Reddit. 1. I got a love letter from a student. It was the last day of the semester, and this was a 101 non-program class. He was not in my program, so I'd never teach him again. It read like a stalker letter. "I've been watching you," and at the end of it, he asked me out. I think he meant well, but for me it was creep level 10. I took it directly to HR. Since I was an adjunct at the time, they literally said you can say yes if you want. I sputtered out a nope nope or similar. Maybe even left them with the letter. LOL. I ran out of there since the HR rep was chirping about how sweet it was. 2. Had a student get expelled because he did threaten me. He said, over email. It was adorable how awkward I was and that I didn't have to be so nervous. I was like, I'm not nervous. I'm just like that. And I realize he was being complimentary, but I prefer to keep on the topic of curriculum. He wrote a freaking diatribe back, including commenting on how I dressed. When they took his badge, he scared the DAA and security so much that they gave me mace and stationed someone outside the class afterwards. Incidentally, both stories occurred in the same 101 course, different sections, years apart. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.